Check. Very good. Okay. Check. Check. Check, check.
Check, 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 check.
And that melodic musical introduction is our way of saying good morning and welcome to another wonderful Sunday here at First Unitarian Society, where independent thinkers gather in a safe, nurturing environment to explore issues of social, spiritual, and ethical significance as we try to make a difference in this world. And speaking of things that are different in this world, I'm Steve Goldberg, an enormously lovable and magnificently modest member of this congregation. And I'd like to offer a special and an extra warm welcome to any guests, visitors, and newcomers. If this is your first time at First Unitarian Society, I think you'll find it's a very special place, and we congratulate you on your good taste. If you'd like to learn more about our special buildings, we'll be offering a guided tour after today's service. Just gather over here by the windows after the service. We'll take good care of you. Speaking of taking care of each other, this is the perfect time to silence those pesky electronic devices that you absolutely will not need for the next hour, because you'll be sitting back or leaning forward to enjoy today's service, which I know will touch your heart, stir your spirit, and trigger one or two new thoughts. We're really glad that you're here. And we invite you now to join in a moment of centering silence so we can be fully present with each other this morning.
Here we are in our circle again, a circle of vision and reflection, a forum for deciding and empowering.
Here we are, at the base of another bridge, another space spanning the shores of today and tomorrow,
Beckoning us to cross the chasm one day at a time.
Here we are, gathered again at the cusp of the future, at the boundary that holds community together.
We are here in a circle of love and trust, brought to this moment by a series of choices and promises, by hope and gratitude, by our own shadows faced and befriended.
With a servant's heart, with a leader's listening, with a parent's love. Truer than all inner trembling, let us model the health we seek for all and lean into community. I invite you to rise in all the ways that we do. We will continue with Reverend Sherry Woodbury's words as we spark our chalice. Together we say, somewhere out there, all we dream is possible. Somewhere in here, we are sowing the seeds. Remaining standing, let's join together in hymn number 67. We sing now together. Together our song of thanksgiving, rejoicing in goods which the ages have wrought, for life that enfolds us and helps and heals and holds us, and needs beyond the goals which our forebears once sought. We sing of the freedoms which martyrs and heroes have won by their labor, their sorrow, their pain, the oppressed befriending our We sing of the prophets, the teachers, the dreamers, designers, creators, and workers and seers, our own life expanding, our gratitude commanding, our deeds have made immortal their days and their years. We sing of community now in the making, in every far continent, region, and land, with those of all races, times, and names and places. We pledge ourselves in covenant firmly to stand. And while you are still standing, I invite you to turn to each other and offer a greeting. Good morning.
We got a family coffee.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
You can still do that. You can do that.
There we go. You can represent the
yourself a nice
family.
rinse.
Thank you. Good to see you. Got up here in record time.
We invite anyone who'd like to come closer for our story to come on up.
I like the what do you do with the problem?
I think we have that one at home. There's a problem, there's an idea, and this one's a chance. Good morning.
What
Elliot,
do
let me
you
see
do with
those
a problem?
Where'd your teeth go, dude? What happened? Both of them at the same time. No? You're coming there, right? Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Our story this morning is called What Do You Do with a Chance? Have you ever taken a chance?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think? Yep, Anne has taken a chance. You guys ever taken a chance? Elliot, you taken a chance?
That's great.
Yeah.
That's important.
I bet we all, you're right, I bet we all have at a certain point in our life. Huh? So let's see. One day, I got a chance. It just seemed to show up. It acted like it knew me, as if it wanted something. I didn't know why it was here. What do you do with a chance? I wondered.
It fluttered around me. It brushed up against me. It circled me as if it wanted me to grab it. I started to reach for it, but I was unsure and pulled back, and so it flew away. I thought about it a lot. I wished that I had taken my chance. I realized I had wanted it, but I still didn't know if I had the courage.
When another chance came around, I wasn't so sure. But I decided to try. I went to reach for it, but I missed and fell. I was embarrassed. I felt foolish. It seemed like everyone was looking at me. I decided I never wanted to feel this way again. So after that, whenever a chance came along, I ignored it.
And the more I ignored them, the less they came around. Until one day, I noticed that I hadn't seen a chance in quite a while. It was as if they had all disappeared. I started to worry, what if I don't get another chance? I know I acted like I didn't care, but the truth was, I did. I still wanted to take a chance, but I was afraid, and I wasn't sure if I would ever be brave enough.
Then I thought, maybe I don't have to be brave all the time. Maybe I just need to be brave for a little while at the right time. I realized it was up to me. I promised myself that if I ever got another chance, I wasn't going to hold back. If I got another chance, I was going to be ready. Then one seemingly ordinary day, I saw something shining far off in the distance. Is it possible, I hoped? Could this be my chance?
I had to find out. I ran as hard and as fast as I could toward it. I don't know how to explain it, but the second I let go of my fears, I was full of excitement. It wasn't that I wasn't afraid, but now my excitement was bigger than my fears. As I got closer, I could see that this was a really huge chance.
But this time I was ready. As it came by, I reached out and grabbed it, and I held on with all my might. It felt so good to soar, to fly, to be free. I now see that when I hold back, I miss out. And I don't want to miss out. There's just so much I want to see and do and discover. So what do you do with a chance? You take it, because it just might be the start of something incredible. So we hope that when chances come by, maybe the chance to make a new friend, maybe the chance to try something new, maybe the chance to eat a new food and see if you like it. Yeah, have you ever taken a chance?
Maybe try a new chance to do a two-wheel bike.
Maybe take a chance to try a two-wheel bike.
That's a big chance the first time.
Oh, that's a huge one. Yeah.
Maybe a chance to go
Maybe a chance to go
on a water ride.
on a
ride.
water ride. Maybe if it seems a little high up there or a little too scary and take the chance. Yeah.
One time I went at a water park and I went to like something that was really scary. It was so dark that I couldn't see anything but two like white things.
Wow. And what did you think of it when it was done?
Did you have fun?
I did because there was a big waterfall and like going under the water.
A big waterfall. So see, if you didn't take the chance, even though that was scary, you would have missed out on that fun.
And the next ride I didn't take it
Uh-huh.
because I thought there was a big wave, but because I saw someone
Yeah.
went under a wave, but so I didn't
Okay.
We don't always take chances, no.
because I was with them.
Ellie, you got one?
I did when I went to the Tangerine on Hades 260 at Mount Olympus.
Oh, Mount Olympus. That's a huge one. And did you do it? Yeah. You took the chance? Great job. Well, now you get the chance to go and have a great time in your RE classes. So we're going to rise in all the ways we do, and we're going to sing you out
With
in
no-
the teal hymnal, number 1003.
So what we will do is we will sing through this entire thing without taking any repeats all the way through as a united body once, and then we'll break into two sections. This is part one. Drew will be assisting you. This is part two, and we'll sing it all the way through, each line twice, all the way through, not taking none of the repeats, and do it as a round. So let's start first singing it through once, united. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? land of mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Part one.
Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going?
Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from?
Where do we
Mystery.
come from?
Life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from?
What are we?
Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going?
Mystery,
Where
mystery.
do
Life is a
we
riddle and a
come from?
Where do we come
Mystery.
from?
Life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Our reading is taken from the writing of Stephen Kendrick. We are here to face the truth about ourselves, about this faith we love, the ways it presently serves others and the world.
as well as to open ourselves to ways it can better and more joyfully reflect our potential and core values. We want to know the ways we are bound to one another, as well as to larger religious movements normally beyond our sight and vision.
We say we are open and diverse.
Yet it is too easy to feel stuck in old paths and stubborn habits, reflecting not so much tradition as comfort.
We want to answer the call to service to a world that needs our message, our hope, our revived energy.
We are gathered to learn, to unlearn, to hear, and to move forward.
Today is the last of our reflections that take us specifically through the process that is an important one for this year. It really sets the congregation up to think about the future in a particularly meaningful and intentional way. That is, exploring the missional identity of the congregation. One of the things that's most powerful about this process is that it both involves the exploration of what you bring in your own life and where you are, and asks you to think seriously and thoughtfully about that. But it also brings us always into a sense of the connections outside of ourselves and asks us to explore what it means to take that connection more meaningfully. The scientist and writer Margaret Wheatley states it this way: "There is no power equal to a community discovering what it really cares about. Always it is like this. Real change begins with the simple action of people engaging in conversation about what they really care about." And so we have been inviting you to be a part of that conversation. You've seen this diagram before, but an important way to think about the missional identity is that it has to do with the interplay of your answers to three questions. We have already gathered and talked about the question, who are we as a congregation? And then moving into the idea of whom do we serve and who is our neighbor? And then finally, to explore what we are called to do now and in the coming years, the next few years together. And that missional identity is the energy that really is found by the close interdependence of the answers of those questions, and thus the triangle in the center. There may be ways that you answer each of these questions that are important, but they don't lend themselves as a community to really helping you understand why you are here and what you are here to do. And so in the first section, when we answered the question, who are we? We were looking for some of the common threads. And in our gathering a few weeks ago, when we explored who we are as a congregation, you said that these were some of the essential traits and qualities. You said that this congregation is deeply committed to justice. You've said that a sense of holy curiosity and profound questioning is a part of who you are as a congregation. You stated that respect for diversity of all kinds is essential to who you are, that you seek and work together to be a supportive community. And from that place, you are aware of all of the principles and purposes, but especially really trying to practice together the interdependent web of existence of which we are all a part. The seventh principle. You have said that the ongoing work of providing excellent children's religious education is essential to who you are as a community, that more and more you are understanding the deep interconnection between mind and heart and seeking to have that interconnection speak to you as a congregation, and that as you have experienced and explored different ways of worshiping together, different times, different styles of worship that appeals to the full span of our humanity, that you find that more and more to be integral to who you are as a community. So then we will soon invite you to be in conversation about whom you serve. And that, as we explored last week, really asks you to think about two important components of that service. First, sort of the internal, the one that is the context most closely held by the congregation, within the congregation itself. Who is it that you seek to invite to be a part of your congregation? And what does taking that invitation seriously and to heart, what does it ask of you in terms of how you are with each other? As I said last week, many congregations discover that really they seek to welcome anyone who comes through the door that might find this place a welcoming home and a good spiritual exploration for themselves. But if that's true, then it really requires you to be very open to a wide range of life experiences and needs, and to continue to grow and change in that regard. But the second part of the question is also important and an essential component of who you are already. What sort of partnerships have you been engaged in over the years outside of this congregation, and what will you do in the coming years in terms of your connections with the larger community? What sort of principles and ideas will guide those relationships, and how much are they really partnerships that allow for both give and take? And so we will invite you to be in deeper conversation about that in January. On January 25th, that's a Saturday from 1:30 until 3:30. Here in the atrium. I hope that you will mark your calendars and plan to be a part of that conversation. Finally, later in the new calendar year, we will explore the final question that is really the focus of today. The idea of what is the future asking of us. And that really asks us to be open to the possibilities that we discover. What it means to be a community really engaged in the world as it actually is. And letting that truth really help us know what we are to do. Margaret Wheatley asks us to do this work in this way. Be brave enough to start a conversation that matters. Talk to people you know. Talk to people you don't know. Talk to people that you've never talked to. And be intrigued by the differences that you hear. Expect to be surprised and treasure curiosity more than certainty. Invite in everybody who cares to work on what is possible and acknowledge that everyone in their own way is an expert about something. Know that creative solutions come from these new connections and that real listening always brings people together, and that we don't fear people whose story we know. Trust that meaningful conversations will change the world. In that process, may we rely on human goodness. Most of all, as we explore who we are, may we stay together and connected to the larger world. What does it mean as a congregation to move into the next chapter? And then what sort of leadership, both lay, professional, and clergy, will best help you get there in strength and compassion? More to explore after our musical reflection.
I'd like to invite Elizabeth Alexander, the composer of this piece, to come join me at the podium and discuss the piece that you wrote for us. Elizabeth.
Well, Drew told me a week ago that he was going to ask me to do this, and then he texted me yesterday and said, it's just a few minutes, and I said, great, and I forgot about it till just now. So this is going to be extemporaneous, and he's going to nudge me when it's time for me to stop, because otherwise I'll talk for the rest of the morning. So this is a text by Rabindranath Tagore that I set to music. It's very short. It's actually called an aphorism, which is a little bit like a proverb. I'm not sure the difference exactly. Faith is the bird that feels the light and sings when the song... Faith is the bird that sing... Can I do this? Faith is the bird that feels the light and sings when the dawn is still dark. Faith is the bird that feels the light and sings when the dawn is still dark. And for me, the important part is actually the darkness, because I'm one of these people where sad songs make me happier, because instead of telling me what I don't know, which is that sometimes the dawn is dark, yeah, I know that. I know that all the time. I'm an artist. Of course I know that. But it tells me that there's light and I can feel it. And that's what I need to know, that there actually is light and that it can be felt and that I can sing anyway. So when I talked to the choir this morning, I talked a lot about all these different words. This proverb is full of these amazing words: faith, bird, sing, feel, dawn, light. And there's everything in there. There's despair in there, and there's hope, and there's a lot of fear, and there's joy, and anticipation. And so that's why I wrote a whole song with this tiny little text, because there's so much in there, and there's even way more than I could have ever put into this song. So I tried to find all the different aspects of that, and then I gave it to the choir, and they embodied it. And I was really grateful for the opportunity to re-engage with this text, because I said it for women a while back, and then I said it for the mixed choir. Drew bugged me until he said, it's got to happen. We've got to make this happen. And then I was so glad, because it means something different to me than it did 10 years ago, and probably something different than it will in 10 years, what it means to keep singing. Thank you.
Many thanks to our Meeting House Chorus and to Elizabeth for bringing us such a gift this morning. Thank you. I was recently introduced to the history of the Anasazi, a civilization which flourished in remarkable ways during the 10th and 11th centuries in what is now New Mexico. These people lived together in populous great houses, developed elaborate irrigation systems that nourished their farming, cut a 30-foot wide corridor across the desert for over 400 miles that created extensive trading routes for their elaborately painted pottery and colorful loom-woven textiles. They established lighthouses on distant mesas to send messages in signal fires. They developed a powerful priesthood and were able to follow the movements of stars and planets in ways that were sophisticated beyond their time. All of this was unprecedented in history. And then, within a single generation, they were gone. Between 1275 and 1300 AD, they stopped building entirely, and the land was left empty. It appears that their end was brought about by an environmental collapse, including 2 devastating droughts. Their flourishing had been dependent on a kind of meteorological accident. They'd been living in a cycle of great and atypical rains. And when the droughts came, the Anasazi headed south, leaving trails of pottery and architecture to show the way, and then they were gone. Now, I learned of them not from a history book or a program on vanishing cultures. I read about them in a paper on the future of congregational life. The author, Gil Rendell, a longtime consultant to faith communities, was using this story to illustrate how the period of time in the United States post-World War II, when congregations were growing and thriving, was an aberration in itself. During this time, membership in a faith community was a given. And if you had a falling out with one community over policies or programs, you quickly found another to belong. Because belonging to a faith community was considered part of living a good life, especially necessary if you were raising children. And even if the grown-up attendance and participation wasn't all that strong, you made sure your kids were there every week. Our own faith communities were no different from the others, with congregations forming and growing quickly, with Unitarianism and then Unitarian Universalism offering people the opportunity to belong to a free church, enjoy freedom from the requirements of doctrines and dogmas they didn't believe. A place where you could belong while you explored, where you and your children learned of the religions of the world and what it meant to live a life of purpose and meaning in community. Gil Rendell tells us that this time of congregational growth was as much of an aberration as the wet conditions that helped the Anasazi thrive. It was a confluence of conditions that prompted growth and strength, and oh, how the times have changed. Today, plenty of people don't participate in any kind of religious community. Parents who bring their children here are choosing to be here over soccer games, family time, dance lessons, a quiet Sunday morning at home. Religion is no longer a privileged part of the social landscape in most places of our nation. Lovett Weems, a Methodist pastor and professor, said that there is a simple and familiar cycle through which organizations, including many of our religious communities, tend to move, and that movement is from initial vision to maintenance to decline. And so, what do religious communities do in the face of decline or the threat of disappearing altogether? Many start with the easy temptation to try and find quick answers, introduce new programming, advertise in different ways, change up the worship service or the music. Yet, what is required in these times is for communities such as ours to do the much more difficult work of visioning, of replacing the question of what to do with the much deeper questions of identity, who are we now, and purpose, what is being asked of us, and to travel into the realm of imagination to envision where we want to go and who we want to be. This is the process we've begun this month. As Doug told us moments before, we've been looking at who we are, what is living at the heart of our community, exploring the stories that we tell about ourselves, what it looks like when we are at our best, and we begin to imagine what it would look like to live in that place more often. These are the questions we will keep asking in the coming months. Being in these conversations has caused me to remember what brought me to Unitarian Universalism in the first place. The Universalist message of one loving and reconciling God. You see, I was a first-year student in a Presbyterian seminary at the time, recently leaving the Catholicism of my family and my youth, and when faced with the theology of John Calvin, the inherent evil living inside each human heart, every fiber of my being rebelled. How could this be? It seemed too quick and easy of an answer to the failings, the mistakes, the pain caused by humans to just say it was because we are evil at our core and leave it at that. So I began to interview local clergy, Methodist, Episcopal, Lutheran, American Baptist, to discuss theology. My questions were not that complex, and each one answered with ease. I asked them, what does your faith tell us about human nature, and what are your thoughts on heaven and hell? The human nature answers ranged from inherently sinful and flawed to generally good but deeply misguided. The heaven and hell question had a more universal answer. Those who believed in the teachings of the Christian church were permitted into heaven, and those who did not were going to end up in a much warmer place. All would quickly add that they didn't usually talk about that last part from the pulpit, but that they focused more on the love of God and the possibility of a heavenly afterlife, yet that theology was there. And then I met a Unitarian Universalist, and I opened up about my theological woes. Oh, you should come and talk with my minister. We don't have any of that stuff, he said. And when I said, but it's still there, right? It's hidden deep in there. You just don't talk about it. He said, no. We don't have anything hidden. Our ancestors believed a very simple message. The love of God is available to everyone, no exceptions. It's that love, he continued, that we're called to bring forth in our communities, in our lives, in our families, in our world. There is no hell to worry about at all. You got to create heaven now and make places full of love for everyone. I bet that he had no idea that he was a UU evangelist and that I was his newest and most excited convert. It was that sense of an all-encompassing love available to all with no exceptions that drew me here and keeps me here. It is this welcoming embrace, this radical welcome that is largely my vision for Unitarian Universalism and for us here in this community. And it is hard, difficult, uncomfortable work. I believe the future is asking us to create communities of radical welcome, where we say, whoever you are and wherever you are on your life's journey, we welcome you here, and we really mean it. To do this, we will need to have courage, humility, and imagination. We need courage because this work will make us uncomfortable. In order to do this, we need to look at our community, who is here and who is not. Exploring when we say we, who do we mean? When we say us, who comes to mind? We're going to need to explore the unspoken assumptions about who we are and who we aren't. We can look at the diversity and difference that already lives within our circle, in age and gender expression, in race, class, ability, theology, and we're going to need to look at the limits of our circle of belonging and be willing to work to make it wider. Where are the boundaries of belonging now, and how can we expand them further? Unitarian Universalism offered me a home when I so desperately needed one. I was welcomed in. That old Universalist gospel of a love that invites all souls to the welcome table, not some. That old gospel of a love that can take hold of our hearts and lead us into lives of meaning and purpose. That love welcomed me in. There are many others who need this same welcome, this community, our saving message of love for all. But before they can truly be here with us, we need to do this uncomfortable work of looking around and seeing who's not here and asking why. The future is asking us to realize that we need to always be working to expand our circle of belonging. We can never say, we've arrived. We're done now. We have reached the magic land of inclusionary enlightenment. Being welcoming isn't a destination, it's a practice, one that needs to be lived out day after day. This work requires great humility. It needs us to realize that we're going to need many partners in this work. People to whom we can say, I don't know. I don't know the full and complete answer, but I know this. You need healing, and so do I. You need community, and so do I. You need places of support, and so do I. Because we all need these places, and it takes all of us to create them. How can we do it together? And it takes imagination. The novelist and essayist Marilynne Robinson said, I am convinced that the broadest possible exercise of imagination is the thing most conducive to human health, individual and global. Can we be imaginative enough to bring bold, creative reflection to the issues and challenges we face? Can we imagine this room filled with all kinds of people living, working, worshiping, celebrating together? Our communities are not about being comfortable. Our vision is to build relationships strong enough to withstand the discomfort and support us when things are hard. Here we can answer that call to service, to a world that needs our message, our hope, our revived energy. It's not comfortable, and in order to heal our world, it's necessary. It is what the future is asking of us, to practice welcome here and to take that welcome out into the world. It is holy, life-changing, world-changing work, and it is ours to do.
As we move into the time of offering, may we know that welcoming that Reverend Kelly was talking about, at its essence, is in the same accord with thinking about stewardship. Stewardship is always taking the gifts that we are given in our lives, our time, our talents, our affection, our finances, and aligning them with what we think is most important. May we know today, in addition to that, that 50% of our offering will go to Healthy Food for All. Please find out more about their important work in the red floors. May this time, week after week, remind us of the heartfelt practice of this alignment. And may such a sense of abundance, such a powerful love, be present as the offering is given and received.
And now a few announcements. First of all, you saw the children's story, What Do You Do with a Chance? And we want to thank people who have taken the chance to volunteer in support of our services to make sure that they're delivered smoothly and effectively. So when you see these people during the fellowship hour, please give them your thanks. Thank Justin Woodward for taking care of the sound system for us this morning. Ann Smiley for serving as our lay minister. Our greeters were Katie Beam and Claire Box. Our ushers, Jay Roberts, Paul Abramson, Cynthia Nolan, and jumping in at the last minute to take advantage of their chance, Jim and Monica O'Brien. Thanks to all of you. Our hospitality and coffee are being prepared and hosted by Franz and Eleni Musarid Varga. The poinsettias that you see up here were donated by Sally and Richard Bilder and Paul and Co. Williams in memory of their parents. And the redoubtable John Powell serves again as our tour guide today. Across the parking lot in the Landmark building, you'll see that the Art in the Right Place fundraiser art fair is underway. You'll notice a lot of cars in the parking lot. And if you take advantage of Art in the Right Place, you'll notice 45 artists are featuring their work, and 70 FUS volunteers are making sure that that event goes off smoothly. The other announcement, again, builds on the children's story. What do you do with a chance? We have a chance to continue closing the gap in our operating budget, and over the last few weeks, thanks to you, we're making a lot of great progress in that direction. We've raised $1.1 million because of you, and we have $85,000 to go in order to completely close the gap. And to give you an idea of the range of the donations in closing the gap, they're as small as $20 and as large as $8,000, and they all make a difference in closing that gap. Your chance to participate in a conversation about generosity will occur on Sunday, December 8th, right after the 11 o'clock service. And if you are interested in that opportunity, that chance, take a look in the Red Floors Bulletin. You'll see more information.
And I invite you now into a time of sharing the sorrows and the joys of our lives. This is our time in a spirit of acceptance and support to share with one another some special event or circumstance that has affected your life or the life of a loved one in recent days or weeks. So for the next few minutes, anyone who wishes is invited to come to the front of the auditorium, light a candle, using the microphone that Anne, our lay minister, will have, briefly share with us your message. You may also come forward to wordlessly light a candle, and if you cannot come forward for any reason, please raise your hand, and Anne will bring the microphone to you. I now open our time for the sharing of the joys and the sorrows of our lives.
I'm going to start with a candle because can you hear me now? I'm going to start lighting a candle because faith is the bird that feels the light.
Hi, I'm Karen, and I have a joy that happened right in this service. When we were greeting people, there was a young person that I've seen grow over the time that she's been here, and her mother encouraged her to give me a high five, and I was just really taken aback. It was just such a thrilling moment, and so remember to take those times to reach out to each other, and especially in this time of Thanksgiving.
Good morning, I'm Meg. I just want to light a candle for an essential quality that I think got left off the list, and that would be love and compassion.
I'm lighting this candle today for a joy and a sorrow. My good friend Elizabeth has been ill, and I'm sending out a prayer for her. And the joy is I've gotten to watch two girls grow up in this church, and they're sitting right over there, and they are beautiful friends, and it just warms my heart.
Most of us do not live on grand stages and are able to profess in very big ways, but every day we have very little times and places to touch someone, and all it takes is a little touch to really reach out. And you never know, that very little moment may go a very big place.
And Anne, if you'll light a candle in memory of Dick Walker, longtime FUS member who passed away yesterday morning. We send our love to his family, especially his wife, Margie, in this time. A memorial service will be held in the Landmark Auditorium on Saturday, December 7th. And we recognize all those joys and all those sorrows that are living in our hearts at this time. May we be grateful for the gift of community that allows us to care and to remember and to heal. And I invite you now into our closing hymn to rise in all the ways we do. It's in the teal hymnal, and it's number 1018.
Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. There'll be singing. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound. And now, as we prepare to leave this place, may the questions that this congregation is answering be alive in your life. What are you called to do now in your life? Who are you most meaningfully? Who do you serve? What ideals are alive in you? May that sense of purpose call you forward into this time and this place. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of that deeper inner wisdom, not the fire of our commitment to what matters most in our lives, not the warmth of love, compassion, and community. These remain until you gather in this place again. I invite you to take a seat one more time and receive one more gift together in worship of music. Amen.